One of the things that you mentioned that you did early on in your lending business, that lunch and learn, was it just intuitive? You thought of that idea, or how did you implement that idea? Because it's a brilliant strategy. I love this strategy.
So being in the business development part of the oil and gas business, right? So we'd have vendors come in, do lunch and learns, because we're always buying equipment, we're always doing stuff, right? So it's just a great way to grab people's undivided attention and buy some sandwiches or whatever. So it's just a natural thing to do. Just come on in, I'll provide some sandwiches and some snacks, and let me tell you about what I'm doing. And again, if you're talking to engineers, and you start talking
Mhm.
numbers, and at the time, I was offering 12% returns on their money, right? So they give me $1 million, you're making 1% a month on that
That's
money
awesome.
because I was using my money with theirs, and I would get the points and the fees, and I'd get the interest on my money, and they would be getting their
Nice.
money. So it was a win-win. I wasn't doing it as a business at that point. It was just a side hustle, but it rapidly became more than I could do at work and between lunch breaks and stuff. So fortunately, my wife, the patch was really going downhill. My wife, company was going bankrupt as oil prices at that point were dropping. They had been like to $100, $110. They were going down to 30, and at 30,
Wow.
her company just couldn't hang anymore. Their expenses were more than their revenue. They went bankrupt. She turned the lights out, and I said, "Okay, you're running the lending business." And by the grace of God, it was like a duck hitting water. She was just a natural at it. So I've now passed the torch. She knows everything I
Nice.
know at 10, right? So she runs the hard money part of the business, the private money part of the business. But anyway, that was just a natural thing to do. And so we still try to go to real estate offices. We try to do a little lunch and learn type of stuff. It's just a good way to get with people and entice them enough to go up.
So the company that you were at, they didn't mind that you did that.
No, I was doing it. So that's why I eventually had to retire. I felt bad having to spend a little time at work to make the talent companies are only open between 9 and 5. So if you got a closing, there's a problem, you got to show up. So if we were lucky enough, we were basically replaced our income with the lending business. And after about 35 years or so, it was time to do something else anyway. And this was my passion, real estate. So I hung it up in 2018, and it was going to be a mom and pop operation. But now there's 10 of us. So the last thing I wanted was employees, but I got them.
Yeah, that's so good. For those, because I know there's a number of people on this call that are still in W-2. And how would you suggest for them to get people from their work interested in this lunch and learn? So if they were gonna do this lunch and learn, whether it's weekday or like on a Saturday kind of lunch and learn where everyone's off already, like how to have that conversation to have their coworkers interested.
It's all about the storytelling, but you got to tease them with where it's coffee bar conversations or whatever. Hey, we're doing this. Do you want to make, at the time I was offering 12%, you're making maybe 1% with your money. And of course, I was
Right.
around, I won't call them high net worth people, but the engineers had two, three, $400,000 in the bank doing nothing. And you give an opportunity to make 12% returns. So it doesn't take a whole lot to do it. And once you get a few people, it's just, hey, coming in for lunch, show you about an opportunity, something that I'm doing, you might be interested in. It's got to be very soft shoe, and it's storytelling. It can't be a hard sell. It's just got to be very soft, and you almost want to pull something back. I got a little room for some deals coming up. Let me know if you're in. If you're still interested, I'll put you on the bench. And it's because you can't, like right now, I'm working with a family office, maybe come in with 15 million, and I can't get 5 million working tomorrow. I said, I can take 5 million, but it's going to take me a few weeks to get that money working. But there's this another opportunity. And I guess I'll digress. The way I met that guy was just sitting in the front of the plane on a flight from Chicago to Houston. And I was
Mm.
just there talking with the guy. What do you do? The next thing I know, the guy's called me up on the phone. Hey, I enjoyed our conversation. Tell me more about what you're doing. And he goes, if I had 15 million, could you guys use it? And it's
Mm.
like, thank you, Lord. Where did this angel drop out of heaven from? But if you're an introvert, you're going to have to get out of your introvert and talk to people. This guy was an extrovert. I'm an extrovert. So it was easy to talk almost all the way back. I wanted to read a book, but he wouldn't shut up. And I had to talk all the way home, but it was a great conversation. And you never know where that relationship is going to get struck up from.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. And yeah, for those of you who maybe you're newer to the business and the idea of hosting a luncheon might be intimidating for you, you can always partner up with someone like Rick, someone who's more experienced. You invite the crowd, and the other person can do the talking, educating your potential coworkers to potentially invest with you. And so, yeah, especially if you're going to be doing it locally, find a local operator, a local hard money lender, someone who can talk the talk to help lead that lunch and learn session. That's a really good idea. One of my friends who I interview on this show, Rick, he does his lunch and learn every like once a week at his office. So it's an automatic thing that he invites his investors to. So he's already there at lunch every week. So I don't care if one person show up or 10 people show up. We'll order some food and feed them, and I get to talk to him during my lunchtime. Have you ever done anything like that?
Yeah, so my two big pools of borrowers is Southeast Texas, Houston, Beaumont, Galveston. And the other one I have is up in northern Indiana, of all places, from Gary, Indiana, all the way across to South Bend. And when I go up there about 4 times a year, 3 or 4 times a year, and when I go up there, I have what we call a hangout. So I blast all the people up there and say, hey, we're going to be hanging out. One of the places we do it was a place called not Torchy's Taco. It was a taco place. And we'll just show up. We get the back room. And almost every time I do that, I've got 12, 14 people show up just to hang out and talk real estate and lending for a couple hours. So having hangouts, we wanted to be more consistent with it, but we just get too busy. But that's a great way to just have hangouts. Let's just come talk and chat and let them know you're there. And
Gotcha. And you mentioned about having this family office that has $15 million to work. What is it about I guess, the hard money lending business that doesn't allow you to, is it because of you can't scale fast enough to take on their money? Or what would be the bottleneck to be able to help deploy their money faster?
so you've got a certain amount of deal flow, right? And then you've got too much money and not enough deal flow, you're paying out of pocket for that money. If it's private money, you've got it. Once they give you the money, they start wanting the interest on that money, right? In the lending game, it's a balance of deal flow and capital. So if I'm going to get $5 million seed money, let's say my average loan is 300,000, I've got to have, what, do the math. I got to have a bunch more loans. All of a sudden, my math brain just turned off. But I got to get a bunch more deal flow going in. And I may even have to hire an extra person to handle the extra volume of work. But then once you get that, then you normalize it, you can get another tranche. But I had an opportunity a while back. A guy wanted to do the same thing. He was one of the high net worth guys in Galveston. He really wanted to help revitalize Galveston. This was before the Airbnb thing took off and Galveston went nuts. But he wanted to get 20 million working down there. And I was trying to tell him, trying to get 20 million working in Galveston would be so difficult. There's not that many deals in Galveston to do. But we had an interesting conversation. It never happened. He ended up find something else to invest in. But that's just the balance of the lending game. You got to have the deal flow to match your capital that you got to deploy.
God. What about, have you invested in any syndication type deals or
We're doing our
before
first
you
one.
invest?
We're doing my first one now. It's a borrower that I don't know if you guys know Hinder and his wife Eddie. They're a great couple. The new construction, we funded their new construction. They found a nice little 20, 30 door apartment complex, but it's going to be a home run for them. And I told them, I'm in, just let me know towards the end how much you need to close the gap. I got your back. And so they came back, I need X. And I said, all right, we're in. So now they've got their list because it's a agency loan, right? So you provide your list of who your syndicated partners are. So now they've got their list complete and they're hoping to close within the next 30 days on this apartment complex. That was our first venture. When you're a lender, when you look at how we make money, our returns are so great. If you're lending, you're actually getting around 60% plus or minus on your money. When you look at the points, the fees, and the capital you've got employed, it's just a leverage game, right? And so it's hard to do a 15, 20% deal when my alternative, but the Bible says you can have 5, 6, 7, 8 buckets or more, diversify a little bit, right? So this was a great bucket to diversify in. I like these guys. And as I'm getting older, I may start putting more into those passive investments just to be a little bit more rounded. But always get in the game. It's just who are you going to get in the game with?
Right. So let me make sure I understand. So that deal, you didn't come on as a private lender. You came on as an equity partner in that 38 unit, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this came in
Okay. And did you come on strictly as an LP only, or did you also come on as a co-GP?
This is I'm one of the syndication herd just go in there. We'll see. If
Okay.
I wanted to help them out, they needed to close the gap on the funding
Yeah.
and they get it done. And so we came in, and it'll still be a good investment. We should
Right.
target still 17, 20%. It's a good way to diversify.
Gotcha. The reason why I mentioned that is because just the way that you able to, because back when I was doing private lending, the whole idea of wrapping around a first lien lender so you can get a better return on your money wasn't popular back then. And so I didn't know that strategy, but now I do. So in the syndication space, something similar to that also exists, where instead of you coming on and invest as an LP only, if you come into the deal as a co-GP and help raise for that deal, you make you for the for your own returns, you're making from the LP side and also from the GP side. So your return for every dollar you invest is much greater. Yeah, plus the return from as a GP from the money that you help bring into the deal as well. So that's something you might want to crunch your numbers on because when you're adding all of that up, your personal returns does go up pretty high.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm thinking with the family office money. It would be faster to deploy it if I could get into opportunity like you discussed, right? So I loved your hero conference you had a couple of weeks ago, right? Where that came up, right? And I was just like, man, light bulbs are clicking. That's why we wanted to get our son into the capital raising thing, right? Because that potential is there. We've got the capability of raising funds. And like for your audience, right? If you can just raise funds, you can make some nice money. Because there's two types of people, right? Those who have it and those who need it. And if
Yep.
you compare that, so we'll be talking more about that as this opportunity starts to hopefully blossom.